In today's video, we're going to learn the importance of a soil sample to increase tonnage and the attractability to your situation, to your food plot, to your property, and how you can get more, bang for your buck, basically. And real quick before we start, I want to announce that our podcast, the Whitetail Obsession podcast, is now live on all platforms, guys. So Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcast. There's all kinds of different platforms, whatever you listen to. Check it out. It's the Whitetail Obsession podcast. It'll be live on there every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. And also there'll be a video version of that as well on YouTube. The audio will just be on the podcast platforms. So soil samples are a topic where people want to ignore. And I'll start out by saying in this video, you can plant a food plot without doing a soil sample, 100%. Will you have success? Probably. Will you have good success? Depends. But the whole point of this is it's going to save you money. And there's a few key points in this, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of it. And they go out and they buy all this fertilizer and they just sling it at their plot, thinking that the plants are utilizing that. They're not. You have no idea. Okay, for an example, I planted a food plot years ago at my parents' house when I was a kid, right? And I had no idea what the soil was, so I did a soil sample back then. This 20 years ago, and it came out to be that the soil pH was actually 7.0. It was perfect, but I didn't know that until I did that soil sample, right? So a lot of people do is they go out and they just buy all this lime and they buy this fertilizer and everything, and they just sling it out, and you don't know, right? Another example is I did a soil sample on another piece of property years ago. I used to hunt, and the fertility levels were actually great. Didn't need any NPK because it was just good soil. And a normal person would have went out, they would have slung their seed, and they would have just broadcast all this fertilizer when it doesn't even need it. So you just wasted your money. Now, if you want to waste money, that's totally up to you. But the other problem with this is most soils are acidic. They're in a low pH. So when you start getting below like 6.2 and 6.4, 6.2, you start running into issues with low pH, and it starts to affect the plants, right? Because when you have acidic soil, the plants can't utilize those nutrients in that soil. So you can sling fertilizer at it, right? You're wasting all your money on fertilizer, and the plants can't utilize that because the soil is acidic, okay? Now, the problem with this is it's 2023. Who knows the price of fertilizer, what it is now. I haven't looked since last fall, but it's doubled or tripled the amount of cost that it is. So it's an expensive, hobby to do here with planting food plots. Now, when you don't do a soil sample, okay, you're just guessing, and you're battling this endless battle of weeds in your food plots, right? Well, weeds thrive in acidic soil. So if you're not adding lime and you're constantly adding fertilizer, that granular fertilizer is actually lowering your pH even more, okay, because of the salts and fillers that's in it. So if you're battling this weed problem, add lime. Lime is cheaper. Bring that pH up, you'll have less weeds. You won't need as many chemicals. Guys, the amount of, the cost of chemicals, I was in Tractor Supply the other day, it's like over $140 for a 2.5 gallon jug of glyphosate. Okay, that's just regular FarmWorks brand, I believe. That's expensive compared to what it was, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It was $50. So it's doubled, in the amount of cost that it is for chemicals. So if you bring that pH up with lime, not only will you have less weeds, but the amount of nutrients that's in the soil, the plants will be able to utilize. Okay, does that make sense? So And usually every time I add a little bit of fertilizer, I add a little bit of lime to offset that drop. A couple bags, you know, per acre. It'll help offset. Now there are some fertilizers that you can add, or that you add, and it does have granular lime in it, pelletized lime in it, because it does drop. I think it's 19 has pelletized lime inside mixed with it to prevent that, you know, soil pH drop. So that's just some things, but you know, there's most soil samples are like $14. You know, it's pretty cheap. So Domain Outdoors has one now. There's lots of other companies that have them, but get the send away ones. These little test strips, and people do. I have videos on that. They're just not accurate. Get the send away. It's $14, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do. It'll tell you exactly what kind of fertilizer to add. It'll tell you how much lime to add, and you'll have a more attractive plot because, you know, does and stuff, and especially bucks, they're attracted to the most powerful food source. So whatever's the most palatable in that area, that's where the deer are going to be, as long as that food source is unpressured. If you have you can have the best food in the world, but if it's pressured, you know, the deer's not going to eat it. So take the time, do a soil sample, get your money's worth, get the, you know, the correct, you know, tonnage. You're going to get all kinds of extra tonnage and stuff out of your food plot that you spent all this money on to plant. Do a soil sample. It's a boring topic that people don't want to hear. They just wait till the last minute, and usually those are the people that have failures. My Instagram gets blown up with questions all spring and summer and fall, and say, hey Dave, I planted this, it didn't grow, or I didn't do this, or my leaves are turning purple and yellow and this and this. I simply say, you know, did you do a soil sample? And they're like, well, no, I didn't. Well, then I can't help you because I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it. You know, most likely it's low pH, and the plants, you know, aren't utilizing the nutrients in the soil, or you just planted and you didn't add lime or fertilizer, and the plants are just suffering from it. So if you just take the time, do a soil sample, I'm telling you guys, you'll have way better success, and the amount of money you'll save in the long run, right? When you create good food plots and correct the soil and with fertility levels and pH, over time, if you follow the correct steps on this channel, with always having something green and growing, and you're turning that back into the soil, within 2 years or so, you don't need any fertilizer, because that soil is actually able to hold it with a high CEC number. So, any questions, leave a comment down below. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you guys are new. Check out the podcast, the Whitetail Obsession Podcast, on all available platforms. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want more information on food plots, soil samples, and habitat management, click this video right here on the screen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you guys are new.